Hi guys, and welcome back to another Premier League video. Today we're moving on to round 16, but a quick recap on round 15, and I got one score correct again. It was Southampton drawing 1-1 with Brighton, and Brighton left it late. Neil Maupay scoring in injury time to equalise again. How many times has he done that this season? I'm not so sure, but he has won Brighton a lot of points in the last minutes, so they've got him to thank for that. And I wouldn't be surprised if he scored again in injury time. He just seems to be the player for it. But let's move on to my predictions. And to start off, we've got two newly promoted sides going head to head. Brentford take on Watford. And this could be quite a good game. It's on Friday night. And for this, I'm expecting goals for some reason. Now Brentford, they drew 2-2 with Leeds in their last match. But they didn't play great. And that's a trend that's starting to happen. They're not playing great recently. And I'm a bit worried that after their very good start, they have been slipping down the table a bit. And a loss here could really see things start to get worse. And they need to get that form back from the start of the season again. Watford, they've lost 3 in a row. And they've lost 7 of their last 9 games in the league. However, there's something about Watford with their quick attack. They can be good in transition at times. When they get it right, the pace on the break is devastating. And they've got some very good attacking players. And their last 2 games have been against Man City and Chelsea. They lost 2-1 to Chelsea and 3-1 to Man City. But they didn't play too badly in those games. And against Chelsea, they actually had more chances. So, for this, I'm going to go with the away side. Watford to win 2-1. On to Man City versus Wolves next. And Man City, they've won 5 league games in a row. They have conceded in the last 3 games in the league. However, they're playing a Wolves side that haven't scored in the last 3 games, and their game is a lot more defensive based. They are very good defensively, but they're struggling up front. If they can start scoring, they'd be a very good team, and they'd be pushing Europa League spots given how many teams there are dropping points around those positions. But with Wolves, I don't think they're going to beat Man City. I predicted them to draw against Liverpool last week, and they nearly held out for a point. But Divock Origi, probably one of the best super subs around at the moment, again provides for Liverpool off the bench and scores in the dying moments of the game to nick it 1-0. So again, Wolves, it was a very good defensive performance. I don't think they'll have enough to hold out Man City. And I think Man City can cut teams open in a way that no one else can. They've got a lot of technical midfielders that can just tear teams apart. And I think Wolves are going to concede quite early. And Man City are going to win this 2-0. Arsenal versus Southampton next. And Arsenal, they obviously had the poor start to the league. They lost 3 in a row. And then they went on a brilliant run. Quite a lot of wins in there. Went flying up the table. And then they started dropping again. They've lost 3 of their last 4. And their last 2 have both been in December. And it's 2 losses in December. A 3-2 against Man United. And a 2-1 against Everton, who were the worst form team in the league. And Everton, they had a lot of chances, which I wasn't expecting. Obviously, I expected Arsenal to win. Every team tends to get chances, but Everton had far too many for Arsenal's liking, and they'll want to sort that out pretty quickly. Richarlison scored 2 offside goals and got himself a goal, and then Demarai Gray scored an absolute rocket outside the box, in off the post, right at the end of the game. And Everton, fair play to them for picking that up. But Arsenal, they need to come out of that now. And they need to start winning games. on a more consistent basis again. Southampton, they've drawn their last two against Brighton and Leicester. And they are one of those teams that pick up a lot of draws, I feel. They don't really have the cutting edge to win, but they're good defensively, so they don't concede too many. And I just think Arsenal have got too much for them. If Arsenal turn up, they should win this. If the Arsenal turn up that play against Everton, I think my prediction will be wrong, because I'm going to go for an Arsenal win. But it might be worrying if that Arsenal turn up that played Everton. However, Arsenal to win 2-1. Chelsea versus Leeds next. And Chelsea, they've picked up 4 points out of their last 3 games. And if you're going to drop points like that, you're not going to win the league. The other two, Man City and Liverpool, aren't dropping many points. And it's seen Chelsea go from first to third. They're overtaken by both of them on the weekend because of that loss to West Ham. And yeah, they need to start being more consistent, winning more games, because if they do that, if they do what they're doing, they're gonna start dropping, and it'll be a 2-horse race as it normally is. But I am positive about Chelsea because I think they can do it. They can get that form back. They're just in a little bit of a blip. So, yeah, I'm sure they'll be fine. They'll pick themselves up and they'll get straight back into the thick of it. But if they do lose any more games over the next few weeks, especially with a busy schedule, they might struggle to get themselves back into it. Leeds, they drew their last game 2-2 with Brentford. And they played okay. They went 2-1 down. Brentford didn't really do much throughout the whole game. But Patrick Bamford came on, scored right at the end, and that's a big positive for them because they were missing Bamford up front. They were missing goals. It's kind of like Dominic Calvert-Lewin missing from Everton. Bamford missing from Leeds was a struggle. Rafinha has had to get a lot of goal involvements recently to get them points. And they've got him back. Whether he'll start, I don't know, because I'm not sure what his injury is like. I'm guessing it's okay, but I'm not sure if he's 100% fit. For this, I fancy Chelsea to get back into form, winning ways again. I'll go Chelsea to win 2-0. Now the next game is a bit of a weird one. It's Liverpool taking on Villa. Now Liverpool, they've won their last 4 Premier League games in a row, and they've conceded 1 in that time. So they're playing very well. They won their last one 1-0 against Wolves. Wolves were unlucky, but Divock Origi came on, got a last minute winner, and that's what Liverpool tend to do. They're a team that if they need a goal right at the end, bring on Origi. I think he's a very underrated player, and I'm not sure. Obviously, Jota and players like that, they are good, but Jota's not a striker. Firmino, before he came to Liverpool, he was an attacking mid. Origi's a striker, and I'd like to see him get more game time in the league starting, really. I think a front three of Mane, Origi and Salah, it could be very good. So I'd give it a try if I was them. However, they're playing Villa. And the reason this is such a weird fixture is because we're going to see Gerrard at Anfield managing against Liverpool. It's going to be very strange to see. But he started well. 3 wins out of 4. His only loss was a 2-1 loss to Man City, where they played pretty well in the second half of that game. So I can see him getting something here. He's returning. It's going to be obviously very emotional for him. And I think he's going to get something. I really do. Don't think he'll take home all 3 points. They won 7-2. So, maybe Villa can do something like that again in that crazy game. But no, I'm going to go low scoring on the fence. 1-1. Norwich versus Man United next. And Norwich, they lost 3-0 to Spurs in their last game. However, the form has definitely picked up since Dean Smith got there. That was their first loss in 4 games. And that's very good considering it's Norwich and they tend to just go straight down every time they come up to the Premier League. I actually think they've got a bit of a chance of staying up here. With, obviously it's very early for that talk, but they're joint. All 3 teams sitting in the relegation zone at the moment are all joint on 10 points. So Norwich, at least they're still in a bit of a fight. Man United, they're unbeaten in 3 league games, and Ralph Rangnick, he did very well against Palace. Obviously, it was only a 1-0 win. They'll want to see more on the attacking front. Of all those attacking players, Fred got the goal, which was quite strange when they've got Ronaldo and Rashford and Fernandes and Sancho. But, however, they won the game and they played well. It seems like they adopted to his style pretty quickly. They were pressing. There's a lot more energy about Man United, which it was good to see because they've sort of been struggling about for the past few months. I think Man United will win this quite comfortably. And I'm going to go Man United to win 2-0. Next, it's Brighton taking on Spurs. And this game has been postponed. Spurs have a COVID outbreak, so it's not going ahead. However, I am still going to predict it just because it fits into this round of fixtures. It does belong to this round. So I'm going to do my prediction now, and then whenever this game is played, come back to this prediction and see what I said for it. So, Brighton, they've drawn 8 out of 10 games, so they're drawing a lot. They lost the other 2, so they don't win many at all. Spurs, under Conte, they've been good in the league. They've won 3 out of the 4 games he's been in charge, and they drew the other one, so he's unbeaten. And I think Spurs are going to win this game 2-1. Burnley versus West Ham next. And Burnley, they got something that they didn't want, which was the first team to fall to Newcastle. Newcastle hadn't won a game all season. Burnley, being in the position they're in, they would need to win that game. And they didn't. They lost it to a fellow possible relegation rival. Another team struggling, and yeah, they lost it, which has meant that they are now joint with Newcastle and Norwich, all in the relegation zone, on 10 points. It's something they obviously didn't want. They don't want to lose any game, but when you're losing to someone that is that close to you in the league, it's not good. Now, they're facing West Ham, who they beat Chelsea 3-2. And it was a brilliant performance from West Ham. We obviously saw that scoreline earlier on in the season, last month, well, a month before even, against Liverpool. So they've now beaten 2 of the top 3 in the 3-horse title race, both by scores of 3-2. They did play Man City and they did lose that one 2-1. But to take 6 points out of a possible 9 from those 3 teams is pretty good going. And they do seem like that sort of team. I feel like when they play the smaller teams, West Ham, they can struggle to break them down a bit. But when they play one of the top teams who's going to dominate the ball and push a lot of men forward, that's when West Ham hit you. Now, that's something that Burnley isn't. They're not going to dominate possession. They're not going to throw everyone forward. They're not that sort of team. However, I do think West Ham have enough to break down this defence pretty easily. So I'm going to go West Ham to win 3-1. Leicester versus Newcastle next. And Leicester, they lost 2-1 to Villa in their last game. And they're very inconsistent. They're one of the few teams that I'm really struggling to get a read on. Like obviously Newcastle, Burnley, Norwich, they're all near the bottom of the league. They're in poor form. They're very consistent at not picking up points. Whereas Leicester, they just seem to turn up very randomly. They played okay in that game against Villa. It was pretty even, but they didn't come out with the points. And I don't really know where their season goes from here. Obviously, they've finished 5th twice in a row. I don't think it's going to be one of those seasons for Leicester. Now, they're playing Newcastle, who won their first game. Finally, it was a 1-0 victory over Burnley. And they'll be hoping that they can add some more wins to that. I'm not sure how to call this because Leicester, as I said, very inconsistent. So I'm just going to go down the middle. I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Palace versus Everton next. And Palace, they've lost 3 in a row, all by a 1-goal margin. So they're just losing games. And I think it's something they can definitely bounce back from. They're not scoring many goals as of late. They're playing an Everton side who were the worst form team in the league. And then they beat Arsenal 2-1. As I said earlier, Demarai Gray with that great strike right in the last minute gets all 3 points for them. And it was a much needed 3 points. Rafa Benitez, to me, was under a lot of pressure. I think if he lost about 3 more games out of the next 4, he would have been gone. He's bought himself a bit more time to turn it around. And he'll just want to be able to stay there till January. Everton don't seem to have much money. And when they do, they tend to spend it terribly. But with a little bit of backing, Rafa Benitez can do a good job. So he just wants to make it to January, and then I think he'll have a bit of time on his hands. For this one, I'm just going to call it, again, down the middle. But instead of 1-1, I think Palace, they need to start scoring. Everton will start scoring again. Richarlison had the ball in the back of the net 3 times against Arsenal. Demarai Gray scored. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. So those are my predictions for these Premier League fixtures. Let me know in the comments what you agree with, what you disagree with, and put your predictions down in the comments too. Please like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more Premier League content.